You are live. I am now live. Let me go live on Instagram and we'll get started. All right. Welcome to my weekly live comics chat. Now, today I'm doing a twofer. What I mean by that is once I finish this one, I'm going to come right back on with another live for the next one because there were many trailers that came out this week that I wanted to do. I didn't have time to do all of them, but I'm going to do Fantastic Four now, and then I'm going to do Thunderbirds after this one because a few more that came out because it was a heavy trailer week or whatever, but we're just going to do this for now. So let's get started here. We're going to do this Fantastic Four teaser. Now, I don't know about you, but it seems like to me we can't have anything anymore without some kind of drama with it. And I'm like, why? Why? Is this why we can't have nice things? Because now there's a drama requirement attached to it? Because there's a lot of drama attached to this trailer. But it's not because of the trailer or the teaser trailer itself. It's more because of the article, the EW article. So we're going to look at that too. But first, I want to look at this trailer right quick. Now I'm going to look at this with the sound off because I'm tired of getting copyright restricted, whatever, on my videos. So we can watch it with the sound off, but we don't necessarily need the sound on to understand what's going on in this teaser. So hold on. Let me pull that up. And we can look at that. Okay, let me fix my screen all right. Try to mute the sound. Mute. Okay, here we go. So this teaser is about them suiting up for their historic mission. Okay, now if you know anything about the comic books, you know that's not how it happened in the comic books. In the comic books, Reed built a rocket kind of on the low, kind of on the secret, and then he snuck into the NASA base. He snuck into the space port where that rocket was being kept. He didn't have official permission. They snuck in, they snuck past the guards, and they jumped in. Now, I don't understand how they snuck in and got a rocket launched before nobody could stop them, but they did. That's how it happened in the comics. But anyway, here it looks like it's a sanctioned event. There's space people here. There's news reporters here. This is set in the 60s, but not our 60s. But anyway, so let's finish watching. Ready for takeoff. Launching a new Fantastic Four family. Now I don't care what anybody says. Pedro Pascal is not Reed Richards. He still hasn't convinced me. With everything I've seen, I still can't get past him. See, when an actor plays a role, the actor is supposed to disappear into the part. But if you look at whatever they're doing and you just still see the actor, then either they're not disappearing right or they were miscast. Okay, and you cannot convince me that he's Reed. Just can't do it. Okay, so they're all loving smooches and whatnot. So getting ready for takeoff, and that's all good and everything. So anyway, so that dropped this week, and so I thought that was really interesting. So, but I still don't have a lot of confidence in this film, which I'm sad to say because I wish I had confidence in this film, but I don't because it's miscast with Pedro, and also because I can already tell they're trying to have it both ways. And what I mean by they're trying to have it both ways is they're trying to do a mix of our 60s, the 60s of the past here, and a futuristic type of tech thing. So they're trying to blend in whatever elements that they can to kind of make a hybrid kind of background. Now, in and of itself, I don't think that's bad. That might be innovative and cool. But once the article came out in EW, we saw that there's going to be a strong component of gender politics in this movie. Let me say that again. There's going to be a strong component of gender politics in this movie. Let me pull that up. Okay, so you should see the article on the screen now. So Vanessa Kirby confirms Fantastic Four First Steps explores gender politics with Sue Storm. Now, right off the bat, everybody's reaction was, do we need that? Do we need yet another girl boss narrative? No, everybody is tired of girl boss narratives except the people that are creating them. They're tone deaf and they can't read the room, or they already had this stuff in the pipe and some of it in the can, so they have to release it. But everybody, in terms of the viewing audience, and I'm not just talking about comic book fans, I'm talking about longtime fans, new fans, normies, casuals, tourists, everybody is tired of the girl boss trope. Everybody. But what I think they're going to do here is I think they're going to try to paint Sue simultaneously as both a victim and in charge. I think they're going to try to have it both ways. That they're going to try to say, because it's set in the 60s, not our 60s, but they're going to take from our 60s, you know, the women didn't have a voice or as much of a voice, or they weren't as empowered or whatever, but they're also going to say that she's the de facto leader. Let's look at some of this article. Actress Vanessa Kirby confirmed that Marvel Studios' upcoming Fantastic Four First Steps explores gender politics with her Sue Storm character. If you played an exact 60s Sue today, everyone would think she was a bit of a doormat. So figure out how to capture the essence of what she represented to each generation. Whether gender politics were different and embody that today was one of the greatest joys of this. Except ain't nobody thinking about that. Ain't nobody thinking about that. Everybody just wants to see a good adventure with the Fantastic Four. Nobody's thinking about all that what she said about representing what Sue meant back then and what she means now, and you know, and it's always a failed effort. If we haven't learned anything from Snow White, they should have learned that trying to judge previous works of art, especially from a long time ago, by whatever you think today's standards are, is a ridiculous notion. And holding older things in the light of today's standards does not mean that today's standards are correct or even wise. Do you understand? So the article goes on to talk about, now for those of you that didn't know, Sue did not have her force fields when she first got her powers. All Sue could do when she first got her powers was turn invisible and turn other things invisible. It wasn't until a few issues later they actually gave her force fields, which completely changes the game. That's what makes Sue the most powerful member of the four. Those force fields. But she didn't have them initially. Okay? Now look at this. On top of Kirby's comments, Entertainment Weekly's Christian Holub shared that Kirby Storm is the head of the Future Foundation. She's the head, and she has helped achieve global demilitarization and peace. If Reed is the most scientifically intelligent person, then she's the most emotionally intelligent person on the planet. Between the two of them, they're building an idealistic society. Okay, what? That sounds like some cult stuff. When you start talking about building idealistic societies and eliminating certain things from whatever, remember Demolition Man, where they decided to tell everybody what to do and everybody had to chill and we're going to eliminate this and eliminate that. That is the first steps to a cult. So maybe that's what they mean by Fantastic Four first steps to a cult. because global demilitarization and peace, the world's at peace because of them, because of her. And Reed's scientifically intelligent, she's emotionally intelligent. So she understands all the vibes of all the people, of all the nations, of all the groups of the world, and she knows how to calm everybody down. Is that it? See, that whole vibe is ringing wrong to me. Furthermore, Kirby shared that she ensured her depiction of Sue Storm was not the stereotype of a goody sweet mother. She explained, one of the things I love most from Sue's history is when she becomes Malice and all her dark stuff comes out. I was obsessed with that chapter of her life. So I wanted to make sure that there were tons of malice in there with her, that she wasn't just a stereotype of a goody sweet mother. And that's the biggest red flag so far. That out of all the iterations of the Invisible Woman since she was invented, her favorite characterization is Malice. If you don't know who that is, Malice is the Dark Phoenix experience, but with Sue. It's Sue turning dark and she becomes, her outfit is more like a bondage dominatrix outfit, and she has on spikes and she is just wild. And it's such a departure from the Sue that we know. So Vanessa Kirby is saying that's her obsession. That's the part of Sue that she most vibes with. Oh, Lord. She said she made sure that there were tons of okay, once again, when you don't understand how something happens, you can't portray it well. The reason the Dark Phoenix saga is so powerful is because Jean was the most unassuming telepath on Earth. She was introverted and very unassuming and not pretentious at all. So she did a complete 180 when she became the Black Queen, and that was the impact of that image and that transformation. Same as with Sue. But Vanessa Kirby's saying, kind of like, she's saying she played it like Hayden Christensen played Anakin in Revenge of the Sith, that Anakin was always kind of dark-sided. He was always angry, he was always brooding, he was always losing his temper. He was always feeling like they were holding, him back. He was always having a tantrum. So going to the dark side for Anakin, the way Hayden played him, wasn't this big leap. It sounds like that's what she's doing here. That Sue going dark-sided is not going to be too far from the way she plays her. Okay, I've always been really interested in the mess of femininity and how can you be both? How can you be all the things? Here's how. You can't. Nobody is all the things. Not just a tough, invincible, powerful woman. She's not invincible. But also a mother who gives birth, which is itself a superhero act, she continued. I love that these characters are real humans in a messy family who argue and try to work it out and get things wrong. That last sentence is the most accurate one. That the Fantastic Four, these characters are real humans in a messy family who argue and try to work it out and get things wrong. All the rest of the stuff she's saying is kind of ridiculous. So, anyway, the article finishes where it's talking about basically the backdrop of the movie and what the movie's about. And they're talking about balancing the family bond with the threat of Galactus. Everybody knows. Everybody knows you shouldn't be doing Galactus in the first movie. You should be doing Mole Man, just like in the comics. Because once you do Galactus, where do you go from there? Fantastic Four has a ton of villains, but none of them are world-eating. The next highest threat after Galactus would probably be Annihilus and Doom. Doom is a ruler of a country, but he taps into both science and sorcery. Dr. Doom. Annihilus is the ruler of the negative zone, ruler of an entire dimension, always trying to invade our dimension. But Galactus is a world eater. He's a planet devourer. And so if you lead with him and the Silver Surfer, which is going to be the She-Surfer, by the way, the Herald, the Silver Surfer, Julie Garner, is going to be Shalla-Bal, the Silver Surfer, not knowing Rad if you didn't know that. See, all the beats of this movie are already striking me like they're wrong. The casting is wrong. The focus is wrong. And the Fantastic Four is my favorite Marvel group. They are the ones, in fact, that got me into comic books. Fantastic Four was the first comic that I read. So I've loved the FF since I was a little kid, but all this stuff I'm hearing, it just sounds ridiculous. Plus, there's more. They said that Sue's going to be pregnant, and you can see it in the first trailer, that maybe she's nursing a bit of a baby bump, that she's going to be pregnant. But when she gives birth to the child, if it's Franklin, he's actually going to be trans. So I don't know which way they're going with that. If Franklin's going to be born a girl, but think he's a boy, or vice versa, or if they're going to do it with Valeria. But Valeria has her whole story, and Doom is involved with that. So I don't know. I don't know. So that's just a rumor. I don't have any solid evidence, and that's just something I heard and read. So I don't have any solid evidence for that one. It's just something I heard. But if that's true, then that's adding a whole new twist. If Franklin's actually a girl, but Sue transitions him into a boy. Okay? So there's that. Next up, what I want to show you is the very thing that we don't want to see happen. Okay? The very thing we don't want to see happen, and that's this right here. I'm looking at a tweet from Bradley Osborne, and he said, Kevin Feige, don't you dare. Don't you dare what? Okay, in the comics, the way they introduced Namor came up out the sea. Namor fell for Sue when he first met her. And Namor has had a thing for Sue since they first met. Now, those that know the comics know, Reed backed up off of Sue for a while because he felt like she needed to make up her mind as to whether she was going to choose Namor or Reed, even though her and Reed were already together. Now, in the comics, when they come out of that, hey, what's up, Al? Al said, what about Happy Friday? Happy Friday to you too, bro. Thanks for tuning in. So in the comics, when Sue comes out of that, she basically says to Reed that it was always him, and she wasn't going to choose Namor or whatever. But everybody's like, then why you take so much time thinking about it if it wasn't a real thought? So there's been all kinds of Elseworlds, what ifs, fan fiction, and imaginary tales of Sue and Namor being a couple. And even in the main continuity, there's always been hints to their friendship, but you don't sneak off when your husband is busy and you want some attention. You don't sneak off with your bad boy crush, and that's just a friendship. Anybody that thinks that is, unfortunately, still very painfully naive. So Sue and Namor have always had an illicit relationship, literally from book one, where it goes, and people will argue me down on Twitter about how they were never together and blah, 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 blah. The times they were together, most of the time, have been what ifs and Elseworlds. But sometimes there's been allusions to the fact that they have a quote unquote deep friendship, whatever that means. Yeah, what that means is nothing good happening. Is that what you want for your wife? Do you want your wife hanging out with her bad boy crush or a dude that has a crush on her since he met her? Would that be okay with you? It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. So I'm really hoping, plus that's not even Namor, that's Namor. I could never say that with a straight face because that is one of the most ridiculous bad translations I've ever seen in my days. But anyway, everybody is hoping, well, I won't say everybody because I don't know that. I would think most of us are hoping that this doesn't happen. If it does, it'll just be another instance of the main hero getting cuckolded, which has been all the rage ever since Smallville. Smallville cuckolded Clark Kent so badly until I'm still mad about it. And ever since then, it's happened in almost every iteration of a superhero, big screen or small. So if they do this, it'll just be another situation where the main hero is watching his wife hook up with some other dude on the side. So I hope this doesn't happen. I think most of us feel that way, but I can't say for sure, because I'm sure some people actually would kind of laugh if this goes down. Next up, we're going to talk about this right here. And this is a tweet from Culture Crave, but it's referencing the EW article, which we're going to look at. But hold on, let me pull all that up. Now, I made a tweet about this too, but I can't believe what I'm reading about what he's saying about Johnny Storm. So Joseph Quinn on his adaptation of Johnny Storm in Fantastic Four. Kevin Feige and I were speaking about previous iterations of him. He was branded as this womanizing, devil-may-care guy. But is that sexy these days? I don't think so. This version of Johnny is less callous with other people's feelings. So in other words, he's lame and weak. So in other words, he's not a hot shot. He's not a hot rod. He's not a bad boy. He's, what is that? Emo? What is that? A beta? What is that? Somebody's afraid to talk to girls? Is that what that means? That ain't Johnny Storm. That ain't never been Johnny Storm. Okay? So if he's saying, is that sexy these days? Yes, it is. Confidence is always sexy. Yes, it is. Knowing what you want is always sexy. Yes, it is. So I don't know what kind of bag Quinn and Feige are coming out of, but it sounds like they're turning Johnny into some kind of weak, beta-ized version of Johnny Storm. And he's saying he's less callous with other people's feelings. That means he's sensitive. Is that what that means? Is that what that means? Okay. We saw that with Barry Allen on the CW, remember? Remember how Al said, so it's not Johnny. Right. That's not Johnny. Right. And the thing will be made of Jello. We're going to get to him in a minute. Okay. So remember, we saw that on the CW with Barry Allen. We saw Barry got to a point where he cried every episode. So those of you that watched The Flash all the way through, literally, I'm not exaggerating, Barry got to a point where every episode he was crying. He just bawling every episode. And also every episode, Barry needed a pep talk. And that pep talk always ended with run, Barry, run. They actually wore that out. Flash became the new Felicity from Arrow. And so he got to the point where he's bawling every episode. And so I started calling him Cryberry when I was still doing Flash Chat. I was like, Lord have mercy. So if that's what Quinn and Feige are saying about Johnny Storm, that ain't Johnny. That's not Johnny at all. That's not Johnny in the slightest. Johnny's cocky. He's quick-tempered. That's his most defining characteristic. That he's quick on the fly. He fly off the handle on you. That's his most defining characteristic, that he's impulsive, doesn't always make. Al says, take a shot for every time he cried. You'll be blasted. Cryberry, yeah. So Johnny's quick off the handle. He's quick off the gun. So if you make him not be that way, that's not Johnny. Just like Michael B. Jordan wasn't Johnny because Johnny not black. This, what Quinn talking about, that's not Johnny either. Okay? Now, Brandon's got a question. Let me pull that up. You think the Batman Part 2 is done? Personally, I do. Never as a studio had two major franchises running parallel of the same character. As soon as DCU was announced, I thought it was done. No, I don't think it's done. I think a couple of things are happening. The first thing that I think is happening with that is they can't really lock in the script that they want, Brandon. And the second thing that Grace Randolph alluded to, although take it with a grain of salt because it's Grace Randolph, she said he's having health issues. Like he might have cancer like Chadwick Boseman. But Grace Randolph said that, so take it with a grain of salt. But she did say that. that the reason that Matt Reeves has been delaying and stalling and all that is not based on what's going on behind the scenes. It's based on the fact that he's not healthy. But we have no proof, we have no evidence, so that's allegedly. So I have to put allegedly on that, allegedly. I don't know. Okay? So again, so if this is going down with Johnny Storm, that's not Johnny Storm. That's not the Johnny Storm I know. That's not the Johnny Storm in the comics. That's not the Johnny Storm I want to see. Somebody that's apologetic for who they are. Chris Evans had it right, and his Johnny was a little bit over the top, but not by much. But that's the right tone. That's the right vibe. That's the right space for Johnny Storm. Chris Evans' Johnny. This is not it. This ain't it at all. Okay? I also heard that some people were saying that the Thing might be gay, that Ben might be gay. Once again, I got no evidence. It's just something I read. So they may be turning the sexuality of almost every character upside down. They may be changing everything. So they're not race swapping, but they're sexuality swapping, and maybe even gender swapping if Sue has a girl that turns into boy or whatever. Or if they say it's his powers, since Franklin is a reality warper, that he changes himself. There's all kinds of ways they could go with that. Now, finally, I want to take a look at this EW article, but I just want to show you the article because it is much too long to read. This article is huge, so I strongly encourage you. No one goes to see superhero movies for sex scenes, right? I strongly encourage you to give it a look because there's so much in here. But like I said, it's really, really long. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But it gets more so into the mindset of the actors and how they're approaching the characters and all that different kind of stuff. And I did not read a lot of stuff that I thought was good. Okay? First off, now this is just me, my personal thing, that I don't see Fantastic Four when I look at that picture. I don't see them. That don't look like the FF to me. Different strokes for different folks. Everybody can say whatever. That don't look like them to me. That's not how I see them in my head. That's not the vibe I get from them, from these four. Okay? I never thought, I'm probably going to tweet this later, I never thought that the Alba Evans movies would be the best cast and the best movies because we ragged on them when they first came out. Especially Jessica Alba as Sue Storm, picking a Latina, then giving her a blonde wig and blue contacts. We blasted those movies, but as time has gone on, in retrospect, it looks like it may be the best thing we get ever, which is really ironic. But anyway, let's just look at a few of these because, like I said, this article is huge. Okay. So it's talking about a whole bunch of setup, whatever. I'm not reading all that. We just watched the trailer or whatever. Okay. Now, these classic characters are headed back to the big screen to see if they can inspire the same kind of wonder they did when they debuted in the 60s, and in the process save not just the fictional world, but also the struggling Marvel Cinematic Universe. To do that, they have to make the future feel new again, and that means looking backwards. Okay, now right off the bat, that's the most honest thing in this article, and that being that the entire future of the MCU is riding on this here movie. So the DCU is riding on the Superman movie. The MCU is riding on the Fantastic Four movie. That's the most accurate thing in this article because the MCU has been struggling for a long time. And we know that bringing Robert Downey Jr. back as Doctor Doom is nothing but stunt casting and a Hail Mary and member berries and all the things that are saying we don't know what else to do, so we're just going to bring back people that we know you love and just say member and just go on nostalgia. So the Fantastic Four movie has to hit, and it has to hit well. It can't be mid. It can't be just a break-even movie. It needs to be a roaring success But with all this stuff that they talking, at this point, I don't really see how, because they still don't get it. I have learned that you can't do anything with people that don't get it. You cannot. It's like trying to speak a language to someone that does not speak that language. It doesn't matter how much you talk. It doesn't matter how much you raise your voice. It doesn't matter what you do. They're not going to understand you because they don't understand that language. That's what it's like talking to people that don't get it. You can't do anything with people that don't get it. You're just wasting your energy because they don't get it. And these movie creators still don't get it. Female Silver Surfer, less cocky, more sensitive, quiet Johnny, perhaps Franklin being trans, Pedro Pascal is Reed, Sue's the most emotionally intelligent person on the world. They're creating an idealistic society. She thinks that Malice are the best parts of Sue. Do you see how all that is adding up? They don't get it. They don't get that none of that is what we want to see. But the most ironic thing about superhero movies is this right here. If you make a movie trying to please everybody, you will please nobody. If you make a movie trying to cater to the new audience, which is the smallest number of people, or it's a phantom audience, you're going to split the fan base right down the middle. Only if you make a movie that caters to comic fans will you make a movie that everybody likes. It's the most amazing thing. It's why we still talk about Superman the movie, Donner and Reed. It's why we still talk about Captain America Winter Soldier, because Cap was Cap in that movie. If you make a movie that the comic fans will love, everybody will love it. Okay? And they don't get that. So they keep making moves to alienate their longest fan base and appeal to people that are the smallest number of people that never read comics anyway, that aren't going to be happy no matter what you do. They don't get it. Don't nobody want to see female Silver Surfer. We want to see Norrin Radd, but whatever. Okay. Okay, so now that's going on a little bit of a history tour of what was going on at the time that Lee and Kirby created the Fantastic Four. Now, the Fantastic Four, from what I've read, were originally going to go more towards body horror. That's what the 2015 movie was more about. Fantastic was more about body horror. But then they pulled back from that and made it lighter. And then they ended up doing that with Doom Patrol, is what I read. But you know, when you read stories and interviews and all that, you got to take that with a grain of salt now. Because maybe they meant it at the time. Maybe they were just saying something to say something. I don't know. So it goes into that. Okay. And it goes into why they were so successful at the time and how the Fantastic Four comic blew up back in the day in the 60s when they're first introduced, and then they introduced Doctor Doom. The Fantastic Four has the best pantheon of villains. Most people don't know half of them, a quarter of them. We just know Doom and Galactus. So many more. Okay? So if you want to really get a grip on it, you got to read the first 100 issues of Fantastic Four by Lee and Kirby. Can't beat them. You cannot beat them. They're the quintessential comic books. Okay? So right here, it says, to get even more specific, Jackman describes the film style as where Kirby meets Kubrick, with the original Fantastic Four comics in 2001: A Space Odyssey as the major visual reference points. Now, some people, when I saw that on Twitter, some people really like that. I'm just kind of iffy. I'm just kind of wait and see, because that could go well or that could be awful. We knew that we'd be on another Earth, so we had a chance to reinvent what the 60s looked like. Let's try to have it both ways. I was really interested in imagining the Fantastic Four being astronauts. Okay, they're explorers that were not sanctioned by the government or the military. We pushed them to do it on their own. Okay. and then Herbie. Now, once again, I'm not going to try to hide my bias. I've always hated Herbie. From the moment they introduced Herbie, because on the cartoon way back in the day, they didn't have the option rights to the Human Torch, so they substituted him with Herbie, and it's not the Fantastic Four without Johnny Storm. So I hate Herbie. Just put it out there. So he's going to be here because we've seen him in that first trailer. Fantastic Car is incredible. Fantastic Car is a perfect example of this film's retro-futurist gestalt of Mad Men as period detail and Jetson-style invention. Okay, so they're going to try to marry the aesthetic of the Mad Men TV show with John Hamm and the Jetsons. So like I said, I'm calling it now. That's not going to be in the middle. That's going to be really good or really bad. That's going to be a love it or hate it. Okay, now Brandon is saying here, my first red flag was Pedro Pascal as Reed. I believe they're going to reboot the MCU sooner than later. They're going to have no choice. I agree completely. That's what I think Doomsday and Secret Wars are going to be about, is a reboot, because they're going to have to recast and start over and kind of bring an end. They should have made an end with the Thanos saga. They should have wrapped that up with Endgame. But anyway, if it could have, should have, would have. Okay? So this is going to be really, really good or really, really bad in terms of the aesthetic. It's really going to work or it's not going to work at all, calling it now. So Cody wrote this character of Ben Grimm as a bit of an homage to his father, to the streets that he grew up on. I'm a New Yorker and I spent a lot of time on Essex Street, on Delancey, on Clinton. So it does feel like home to me, and the production did a beautiful job recreating that. It was so cool to walk down and see the hat seller and the fish seller. I was shocked that we were outside of London because it fully felt like the Lower East Side. So, okay. So if he's able to vibe with his own New York roots and Ben's New York roots, which is a very, very strong part of the Ben Grimm character, then maybe he can, pull that off. Maybe it'll be good. Okay? So like I said, this article is huge, so I'm not going to go through it. I just want to read some excerpts. But I strongly recommend that you check it out because it has so much in there. And it'll really give you insight into the mindset of what they're thinking. But what I'm thinking is they've already bent the character so far. Now, the best thing on that image behind me is Ben looks like Ben. It's going to be a practical suit and not CGI, or maybe kind of a blend. Okay? So Ben looks like Ben, and Bacharach sounds like he gets the character, but the other three are already in the wrong zone. Johnny, not Johnny. You will never convince me that Pedro Pascal is the smartest man on earth. Sorry. And now they're making Sue a 60s girl boss, combination of the two. So, I mean, so yes, I'm going to see it. Yes, I'm going to see it for discussion and review purposes. Yes, I am. But I'm not excited about it. I wanted to be excited about it because this is the group that got me into comics. I wanted to be excited about this. Okay? But I'm not. I'm kind of resigned to seeing it now, which is not how I wanted to feel going into this. So that's pretty much all I had to say about this. We'll just have to wait and see. We will just have to wait and see. The other thing I want to say before I go is I'm still amazed at the way people take Twitter comments so personally. Like I have, so many people are flying to this rage when we're talking about speculation about different things. There's nothing wrong with speculating about what might or might not happen in a film. And if you agree with somebody's opinion or whatever, but, and the reason I bring that up is because I don't like being tired before I see a movie. I want to see the movie fresh. I want to be excited. I want to be, energetic, especially if I go to the theater to see it. But But there's so many arguments, so many arguments now, like where you can't express an opinion and somebody's not losing their mind because they don't agree. And I'm just like, so I'm not going to allow it to rob me of my enjoyment of characters that I've loved my entire life. But I hope these characters are the characters that I've loved my entire life. And so far, it doesn't look like that's how it's shaping up, but we just going to have to see. Okay? So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to do another review right after this one. So I'm going to click off. I'm going to end this one because it works better when I do two separate segments. So I'm actually going to come back in about 3 minutes and do the Thunderbolts. So let me know what you think about the Fantastic Four teaser, the article, the stuff I talked about in the comments below. And then hang around, and I'm going to fire it up again, and we're going to look at the Thunderbolts trailer, and we're going to examine that step by step as well. All right? Thanks for watching me live. Thanks for watching replay. Thanks for your comments. DT2 Comics Chat out for about 3 minutes.